Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TriVersity Talk. I am Steven Bloomer-Teague.
And I am Wendy Stewart Kaplan. How is everybody on this fine March night?
Well, this has been quite a week in terms of Pike County goings on, but
my gosh, I would certainly say so. You know, and this is a perfect time, Stephen, that we can thank all of our viewers who supported TriVersity's letter on Facebook in lieu of all the events that happened with the school board. I'll just put it like that. Thank you all. You know, we're a family. You said it, Stephen, TriVersity family, and this week really proved it.
Absolutely. So thank you to everyone. But if you are new to TriVersity from all of the lovely school board drama, welcome. And if you are watching this either on Facebook or YouTube, give us a like or subscribe or thumbs up and smash buttons. Do what you've got to do to show TriVersity a little love. We will really appreciate it. And a couple other things. We are in the works for doing an Equality Act town hall. We're thinking that is going to take place on, I believe, Tuesday, the 23rd of March.
Okay.
But it hasn't been nailed down yet. But just save the date in your calendar. But before that, we're having drag bingo with Belle Pepper on March 19th. So check out this link. It's a Facebook events page. It'll give you the information you need to find out more about bingo, and that's a fundraiser for TriVersity. So
and Belle is always so amazing and so much fun. And Stephen, I don't know if you knew this, but Belle was singing, I think, to a Debbie Gibson song in Weiss's Market by the produce section. How about that?
Well, that's
could be her next stage, everybody.
Exactly. Well, good for Belle Pepper.
Checkout counter. So there you go. And she'll be doing drag bingo, and she's so much fun at that. I'm excited about tonight's guest.
I am too. I mean, we've been bantering already, and so it's like you don't want to laugh too much before the show starts. So, I mean, yes, I am very excited. Would you like to do the honors, Wendy?
Yes, I had heard about this very impressive person, Zoe Heath from Simone, our own Simone. And she said to me, you got to meet this one. She's incredible. She's a dynamo. She's so young, and she is such an activist, mover and shaker already. So I'm like, yes, we have to get her on TriVersity Talk. So without further ado, Zoe, come on in.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for saying such nice things. I was backstage and I was like, oh my gosh, they're very nice.
Listen, we wouldn't say it unless it's true, right? Stephen and I tell the truth. Scouts Honor every time.
No idea.
No, we never say anything about anyone.
You are you're very young. You haven't been out of high school that long. Let's start with how you started on your path for LGBTQ activism. And it's really humanitarianism. What makes Zoe tick?
Thank you. I've always thought that like LGBTQ plus rights are truly, truly all encompassing, just because our movement in the United States has roots with people of color, like especially with the Black Lives Matter movement being so prevalent and such a force over the summer and still today, considering George Floyd's, the trial for his murderer is starting this month on the 8th. It's important for LGBTQ plus people to remember where we come from and how our movement is one of solidarity. It is one with poor people. It is one with sex workers. It is one with people of color. It is one with women. It is one with all the genders because it's a spectrum. But for me personally, I didn't know what a gay person was. And when I was like 10, Lady Gaga was speaking out against Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And I was like, what is that? So I like to thank Lady Gaga for my gay awakening. But,
I like that you referenced her. Cool.
But as far as activism, when I was a sophomore in high school in 2015, I started the first safe space for LGBTQ plus people, the Gay Straight Alliance, in my district. It was one of the first in the area. There had only been maybe 2 previously, and it was the first in our school district. And I'm actually very, very grateful to administrators who have retired since, but who were able to push for it. There was a woman who ended up leaving. She was a vice principal, and she said, this tried to happen a few years ago. It wasn't able to go through, but I'm going to push for this because it's so necessary. And because I started it at such a young age, I was 15 as a sophomore. Wow. I was able to graduate with a thriving membership, with officers, with really, really wonderful students. And also like the ability to have a safe space in schools, even in schools where we do have accepting staff and we have LGBTQ plus staff. Those safe spaces, if they even help one child, they're so unbelievably important. In my tenure as the president of the Verdun High School Gay Straight Alliance, we actually managed to get a gender-neutral bathroom introduced at our high school.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which was really, really wonderful. Partly because the GSA had always just kind of been a very social thing, which I think is important for queer people and LGBTQ plus people to have a space for themselves just to exist without the prying eyes of heteronormative views and social constructs, but also just because like high school is hard. You're figuring out who you are.
Hard.
You're worried about the next test. You're worried about the big game or that play audition. And no kid should have to worry about their gender identity being perceived in a negative light by their family or their sexuality being an issue at home. And those spaces where children, teenagers can be their authentic selves is so, so important. Zoe,
I'm so impressed with this self-realization at 15 years of age. I mean, you know, I was dancing on my bed when I was 15 and watching MTV, okay? So how did this realization in terms of who you are, was this something, being this empathetic, was it something that happened when you were a small child? Were you born, you know, being aware? Some people are more aware than others.
I think that my awareness personally, I had like, I was raised by a single dad, and I'm very, very grateful that he has always been supportive of myself and my activism. I really am thankful that I am able to tell a funny coming out story where I came out and my father laughed and said, I know, which was both a relief. And I was like, oh, I really want to be like, like I cry. And he was like, yeah.
No drama.
No.
I hear you there. That is.
And I'm like very grateful to have that support, but it wasn't always easy for my family. My mother was not a part of my life. There were some things that happened to me in my childhood that like really early on when people go through trauma, they can often like really learn how to empathize with others and feel around their environments.
Right.
And just like kind of get a gauge of, oh, this person's uncomfortable. This isn't right. And I also just think that the people I looked up to when I was younger, like, were examples of empathy. Like, I know I talked about Lady Gaga doing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but I also, like, I was a really big reader as a kid. Like, when Malala Yousafzai, who was an activist for girls' education, I was, I forget what year it happened, but for those who don't know, she was writing a blog post for a CNN affiliate, and she was an advocate for women's education. And as I want to say a 15-year-old girl, she was shot in the head.
That story. Yeah.
And survived and has gone on to, actually, I have this poster. She's behind me right here. This is a picture of her. She survived and has continued to be like an activist and author. She speaks like 4 languages and just like.
She speaks at the UN. She's been given so many awards. She's an amazing human being. The fact that she survived and she was her attempted murder was by terrorists. I mean,
she like, it wasn't just like a murder. It was like an assassination attempt.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
She was such a forward voice for girls' education. But along with those like very positive examples of women, which I feel like could also go into a very long conversation about representation of women and LGBTQ plus people in positive lights. I also had like very supportive friends, family, teachers who, like my grandmother pretty much raised me, and she is like the kindest, most empathetic person I know, who also wanted to give up the F word for New Year's one year because I made her say it too much. Very witty, very, very funny, but also like worked with underprivileged people for like much of her career. So empathy is also like taught by experience, but also led by example. That was my
Well, that is very, very well put. Very well put. So in grammar school, did you realize that you were different in the sense, you know, kids are just like being kids and doing what they do. And then there's the kids that color outside the lines. So
Well,
I guess I'm asking that.
I also, along with just being a little bit different and quirky, I also went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 5th grade. And I was just a lot. You know, as I feel like a lot of gay people do, I had like realizations with my faith because the institutions I were in were not LGBTQ plus affirming ones. And even before I really could understand like the text I was reading, like I was like, the schools I went to, like you learn the Bible in 4th grade. It is very hard to understand the nuances and the modern messages of the Bible when you're really just thinking about going on Club Penguin later. So I feel like with a lot of LGBTQ plus people, they do have a journey with faith, and a lot of people do have like religious trauma. But part of it also was just like, I felt a lot more mature than my peers at some point. And I think part of that was experience I had in my life earlier on. And then like, as I got older and I was getting in like late middle school, high school, when I was in public school, I was like, oh no, that's because I was gay. I wasn't just weird.
Right.
Just a lot of things make sense once you have that representation and know what a gay person was and know who you are.
Right. Sometimes knowing the finding of who you are, and so, you know, Steve and I have spoken with people about this all the time. It's not so easy. It's really painful, and that, you know, that self-discovery and that coming out can be isolating. It can be painful, and certainly at 15, when you were putting together a GSA and gender correct bathrooms, you know, there are kids having such incredible identity problems and that are in a lot of pain. But you brought up a good point. You know, your dad was so supportive. Your grandmother was so supportive. So even though you said you were a lot, you couldn't do that much because you breezed into the high school and you were a rock star. That's impressive.
Well, nothing for nothing. It's the a lot people that get shit done. I mean, you know, it's not the ones that are just kind of level. It's the ones that are intense and powerful. They're the movers and shakers in this world.
Honestly, I mean, theater kids are always activists later in life. So it's but I also feel like, I mean, like I am very, very lucky to have a very supportive family. And as we have more positive LGBTQ plus representation in media and in our officials, like our elected officials and just our government, it's also helping parents become a lot more supportive and receptive. And as there's more resources out there, like I know this is not true for every person my age and younger, but you can have that journey of self-realization and being like, well, what label would I identify with most? And like, what do I want to do with my gender? It's happening a lot earlier now for a lot of people because of the support of family, because of the representation in media. And that's why after high school, I founded Sussex County Pride in 2017 with the help of some other activists, because there was no place for LGBTQ plus youth out of their schools. Like for like most of summer, like for a lot of Sussex County, there was nothing. And having done these like pride events on the Newton Green, which is like the activist go-to in Sussex County, it's covered by traffic, which is great visibility.
Of course, visibility.
It's a lot easier for like a 15-year-old whose parents, they might not be out to their parents yet, to be like, hey, can I go to this concert thing in the park with my friends? Than to be like, can I go to World Pride in New York? Can I go do that? Like, it's a lot more accessible, and we make sure to make it just be like a very like affirming, family friendly space so that it's easier to get to and ask a parent who may not be so sure about the gays.
Of course. I went to a meeting for another Pride organization, and they talked about anything west of such and such in our area. Oh, that's Alabama. And I'm like, well, Alabama needs Pride too, probably more so than your cities, because we can feel especially alone in rural communities. So bringing something to Sussex County, it's just huge, and I'm sure so beneficial to so many youth.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I very firmly believe that while for a lot of reasons, Pride has become like a very big party and celebration, and it's a celebration of who we are, how far we've come as a community. But in rural areas like Sussex, like Pike County, like Orange County, I got the tri-state.
Sullivan County, even, Sullivan County, we're near all those places.
Yeah, we're near all those places, and also like, not only is it a celebration of who we are, but it still is, in its essence, a protest. It still is a force of we're here, we're queer, get used to it. Like at the bottom line, just because in these areas there are a lesser population of gender and sexuality affirming people and people who view this in a positive way, and there is nothing more authentic than being able to celebrate who you are, and there is no further middle finger to the status quo than being able to live as your authentic self, even if it isn't within the box of heteronormative society's views.
Do you find in your area that in terms of like teenagers, the amount of kids that are identifying LGBTQ are growing or shrinking, or it's staying the same? I'm just curious.
I firmly believe that it is growing, but I also do think part of it is just generational awareness. There are a lot of very successful LGBTQ plus people who are from Sussex County who have moved away, or just been able to only realize their authentic selves when they went away to like college or moved to another city and were surrounded by affirming people, or not even, it isn't even always ignorance. It's just like a lack of, information and understanding.
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, I was reading a few articles about how lockdown has actually been really beneficial for a lot of people because it has allowed them to explore their gender identity and how they present themselves and their gender. I know a lot of transgender people have been able to like really transition while in lockdown. So I think part of it, like I'm Gen Z, I'm the generation that bought you okay boomer. For a lot of us, like it is education and knowing these things at a younger age to be able to come to the realization younger. So I don't know if it's like as much of a population uptick as it is coming out earlier. Like I came out when I was like 14, maybe, unclear. But I mean, like it's a big decision. And for a lot of people, a 14-year-old doesn't do that. You do that when you're like 17, you do that at prom. But because of being aware and the representation I had seen, I was able to do it at a younger age and live more of my life as my authentic self.
So Zoe, I'll ask you this, because you're right, this is happening at younger and younger ages. Is this opening the door to the right to say that these decisions are being made too soon? How can you know something like this so early? I mean, what are your thoughts? Because back in the day, these decisions were made as adults, but now it
is earlier.
I mean, I don't trust the right to say anything about my body or my sexuality just out of a lack of understanding. I mean, I do understand people who want to be affirming, who are like, well, how do they know? How are they sure? And to that, I usually just say, like, how do you know you like to kiss boys when you were younger, mom? Like, I feel like it's instinctual for some people, and they can't identify what that piece of difference is, that instinctive difference is, until they see it. So
experience it firsthand.
Yeah, either experience it firsthand or see it in a positive light. Mm-hmm. I know, like, there's a trope in television and media today for a lot that LGBTQ plus characters get killed off on TV, and it is a very negative thing. And for a while, we were like, yay, representation. But there's also the trope of gay people will watch 7 seasons of a 28 episode TV series per season for like 2 seconds of a gay kiss. Like, that's how starved we are for the representation. But like, it means the world to the people who need it. So I mean, personally, I am a cisgender person, so I cannot speak as much on gender identity and expression as some other people could, because that seems to be the right's really go-to word right now. But to me, representation is everything. Positive representation is everything. And I mean, especially for like young children who are like questioning their gender or like not fitting into that like Barbies and like Tonka trucks. Children know. Children inherently know. And if they're like, no, I want to wear this, I want to wear what girls wear, it's not just like, you can tell if it's genuine and not just like, I don't want to say a gimmick because, you know, it's never a gimmick, but children know, and children don't communicate. They don't say, hey mom, hey dad. They communicate by being like, I like this.
Even as it concerned being gay, I could say I knew I was different even before puberty. I mean, exactly. You knew. And I have to imagine with gender identity, you probably know even earlier, you know, because I mean, that's so fundamental is.
Yeah, there's an interesting couple on here. Steven, what was the name of the people that ran the support group? Oops, we just froze. I just lost Steven. Yikes. Zoe, are you there? Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So we had a couple on that. They're from Orange County. You probably know who they are. They have a support group. Hi, Steven. A support group for parents of children that are transitioning or want to transition. And a very common thread was their children at a very young age knew this. It's exactly what we've been saying. But it was wonderful for the parents to at least have other parents. I'm thinking as we all move forward in the human race, right, that after post-pandemic, which has been a big wake-up call, more and more people are going to see the need not only for acceptance, but to, you know, listen to their children at a young age and support them for what they are. Certainly, we now have, with gender equality, we have an administration that will be very supportive of this going forward. We're in a different place right now, and I think our children will be in a better place because of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just comes back to the word I feel like I say every 30 seconds, representation. Like when there are accurate portrayals of children who are questioning their gender or sexuality portrayed in media, or truly just like communication with other parents, like you said, like parents feel relieved that, oh, my child was not the only one who from our young age knew these things or was saying these things. I mean, the more information is out there and the more the representation is out there and the more resources there are literally anywhere, it helps. It does more because there's always one more person to reach. There's always one more kid who can come out sooner. There's always something to be doing better of.
Did you personally ever have to deal with bullying?
Well, I did theater, so it was my fault. I got bullied. No, I'm kidding. There were a few instances, and I will say I did see an uptick of bigotry in general after the 2016 election. I remember, so like I said, I was a lot, and I still am a lot. But so to promote the Gay Straight Alliance meetings in high school, I would wear a gay flag on my back, like the day of, just like a walking advertisement. And I did that frequently. And GSA had been going for about a year now, and we were in the second full school year, and it was, you know, the like week after the 2016 election, and no, it was the day after. So I'd been wearing it the year, like, so for our September meeting, for our October meeting. And so the day after the November election, when we had the verdict of who the president-elect was.
Verdict. I love the word you use. Very apropos.
Sussex County Pride is a bipartisan organization, and I am bipartisan. Anyway, somebody came in the next day with an American flag, which is fine. The issue was that it was on a really big pole. Like this person definitely just like took it off the front door and just like had it on his shoulder. And administration of the school was like, hey, very cool. You're excited about democracy. but please remove it from the pole because you're going to hit somebody in the head.
Right.
And nobody was censoring this student's free speech. It was truly just a safety concern. He still could have had the flag. And the response was, if the dyke gets to carry around her gay flag, I can carry around the American flag.
Wow.
And it's like, this is not something that has happened to me frequently. And also because for a lot of times, and I have heard this from my peers after graduation, like, I am like oh, that's the gay kid I knew in high school. Oh, that's the activist person I knew in high school.
Got it.
And I remained a resource. So like, I knew I had a target on my back from that stuff. And I truly like, I don't care. But like when like slurs like that come out to play, like in suburbia in New Jersey, where no one really has the right to be using language like that, it's harrowing. And it just reminds you like how far we have come, that I haven't heard it that frequently, and how far we need to continue to go, that it gets addressed and isn't used a lot.
And how it became empowered after certain things happened. Like it seemed unacceptable until all of a sudden people felt emboldened. And now the hope is maybe they won't feel so emboldened anymore. But I haven't seen that yet. But
well, but Steven, to your point, that's why I said when we were dealing with hate speech this week, you have to hold the person accountable. If you're going to send out something on Facebook, call that person's name out. There were 10 of us that wanted to know, who are we talking about here? Total transparency, call them out on it. With this kind of thing, you can take no prisoners, really.
Absolutely. And as far as hate speech goes, I understand there were some really, really good examples of elected officials over at the Delaware Valley School District. And we have this issue in Sussex County a lot. We have a lot of elected officials who take to social media or rallies and either engage with straight up white supremacy or really demeaning things about the LGBTQ plus community and go, wah, 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 free speech, wah, wah, wah. And I like to remind those officials, as well as my other activist peers who are all wonderful. One, you are an elected official. You should be setting a better example. And especially to the school board, because not only are you an example of that school district, you are an example to the children of that school district. So if you defend yourself for demeaning an entire community and likely students who are under your care, you should resign and you should never be hold elected office again. And also, free speech does not absolve you of criticism. Free speech just means the government cannot persecute you for it. If your constituents ask you to resign, if they ask your peers to censure your speech, and if you lose your job over it, or if your business suffers because of it, that's our free speech, and that's the free market at work. To not go to your business, to not vote for you, to not want to interact with you at all, because that's my free speech. Those are my rights.
Capitalism we only love capitalism until the point where, Dr. Seuss might pull some books, and then all of a sudden, how dare we contain free speech,
Right.
Yeah, there is a lot to be said about cancel culture, and it truly is an issue. But when Dr. Seuss's own organization is like, no, we're not going to publish these anymore, that's not cancellation, that's accountability. Right. And I very firmly believe in transparency through government. For example, Sussex County has had a really, really wonderful journey with our elected officials, where in January, at the first January meeting they had, we were like, hey, can you condemn white supremacy, please? And they said no. So then activists presented their own resolution that was like, hey, white supremacy and racism and domestic terrorist attacks are bad. We did it. So activists wrote that themselves, and the commissioners said no. And then at the next meeting, they presented their own that just talked about genocides in other countries, and that they were condemning hate that way. It was really unclear. And then at this next meeting, this has been like this will be 5
Wow.
their next meeting. At the previous meeting, they were going to vote on their resolution that only really talked about 9/11 now. I know. By the way, just for a reminder for all of us at home, the original topic was condemn white supremacy. And then never 9/11. So they took those leaps and bounds without stretching first, but they're there now. And so the way Sussex County's public comments work during their meetings is that you give your name to the clerk of the board, and there's a whole list. And then later they'll go through the list person by person who would like to speak. And so I gave my name, and a newly appointed commissioner, mind you, he has not even been elected. He was appointed because there was a vacancy. Chris Carney, after I said my name, just goes, oh no, which I really, it was fun for me. I got to
say, that is like a badge of honor. If that's what somebody.
I've been doing activism for a while, and I've been going to public meetings for a while. And while crisis actor is really up there in terms of what I have been called by people who do not believe what
when you said you were theatrical, I love that, a crisis actor.
But saying "oh no" after I haven't even said anything yet is really just icing on the cake for me. And not for nothing, while it may have been rude, it was free speech.
Right. You're right. There you go.
But I do take a lot of issue when a single member of a board, let's be real, what is this person's last name? Who's on the pike?
Bukaj.
Sorry?
Bukaj.
Yeah, so school board member Don Bukaj said some pretty harmful things about the transgender community, and then backed it up with science, apparently.
Lack of science.
A little emoji. That's all she said. But I take a lot of issue, and I understand that this is a very new situation. So her colleagues have the opportunity to take action.
Right.
I take a lot of issue when an elected official says something wrong that is inherently hateful, incorrect, or harmful to a community. Then their colleagues do nothing, do not defend the action, do not condemn it, don't just are silent and complicit. And then when a lawsuit comes, the taxpayers get to pay for it because it's our free speech. It's like, no, the tax dollars I pay should go toward roads and better schools, not somebody's right to talk about feathers and leather at gay pride, which is a real thing that happened at a Sussex County commissioners meeting.
Oh, no.
Wow.
So I take an issue where somebody's right to free speech is suddenly on my tax dollar. And again, I don't live in this community, but I do not want people who live in that district to foot the bill for her transphobic comments.
Right. Nor should they have to.
Nor should they have to. Correct.
Right. Nor should they have to.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you go.
Apparently there was before it really blew up, she addressed it, I think perhaps on her school board Facebook page, and she said that she has conversations with the LGBTQ community about these issues. And I'm like, I want a list. I need names, because who are you talking to? Because I don't buy it.
It is like, oh, you would like to learn more about the LGBTQ plus community? Start a coalition. Do a group. Do a study group. Get the local organizations who are doing all the good work to come and tell you what it's like to be an LGBTQ plus person in the year of our Lord 2021. Almost messed up there.
That's what I was going to ask you. So all of us can point our finger at the problem, and we can say what frustrates us. How do we change it? Is it changeable? I'm the one always running around going, education, education, education. But it never seems to amaze me the amount of people that I run into. And a lot of them are in our area, and they're all over the country, let's face it, that have these beliefs. How do you change these beliefs?
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree that education as a long-term thing is the most important and most powerful. Actually, New Jersey just recently passed legislation to require LGBTQ plus education in schools. So our history of safe sex for us is going to be taught in New Jersey schools. And that is really going to create a generation of more empathetic people.
Right.
More informed, and also for the LGBTQ plus people in that generation, can take the journey of becoming your authentic self much sooner.
Right.
So I agree with you that education is a huge deal. I think accountability is also incredibly important, because
accountability, yes, transparency, accountability.
Even though like conversations like these are uncomfortable to confront loved ones or people you may have respected in the past, or people who have been authority figures to you with their homophobia, with their transphobia, with their racism, which we have seen running rampant in our elected officials in our communities, while these conversations are important, and I'm especially talking to cisgender, straight, and white people in this scenario, because it is your job to help defend us too. Even though these conversations are uncomfortable and confrontation is uncomfortable, no one is going to learn to be better if they don't learn a lesson.
Right.
And it's like, and also like, if somebody doesn't know that this is bigoted, this is racist, this is homophobic, like no one else is going to correct them unless someone else steps up and sees it. So I think that accountability is a huge issue. And I think that there is a debate worth having as a society about cancel culture. Because I know that is a buzz term right now.
Buzzword lately. You're hearing it all the time.
But there's a difference between cancel culture and accountability. And I feel like that line really should be drawn in the sand, because we don't go forward without accountability. If there are not accountability and consequences for people's actions, they just keep happening again.
Yeah.
And I think another really important thing as far as like bigotry within positions of power, run for office. Like, if you don't want there to be a bigot on your school board, on your town council, on your county, in your county government, in your state legislature, in your federal offices, in the Senate, in the White House, run for office, because only you can really present your values. And just helping somebody run for office is also an incredibly powerful tool. There are so many candidates I'm sure you could volunteer for all over the tri-state area, because like local elections to me are the most important thing. I know the White House is important. I know the Senate and House is important, but local elections are where harm hits the most.
And it's a place where you can have some power as an individual to affect things.
Yeah, to me, it is where an individual like you or me can have the most change. There are so many ways to get involved with either grassroots activist organizations that hold elected officials and government bodies accountable, or to help other people run for offices. Just run for office or help somebody, like get involved in local politics. It is messy and fun and messy. But it really does affect, you can see a change immediately when you do things like that. And sometimes it can be really negative for a while. And it is very hard to, the Commissioner Carney, who said, "Oh no," when I queued up to a meeting, he lives in my town. I'm sure my parents I have family friends who went to high school with him. Like, on a local level, it is a lot harder to just ignore somebody who's a face in a crowd, because that crowd is your community. It's not a 97 town congressional district that is the span of 200 miles. It is 5 miles away, and they probably own a store. And it is a lot harder to confront people in a way that is not productive if you have to deal with them later.
Right. Again, though, you're going back to what you said about accountability. That's accountability.
So Zoe, when are you planning to run for
Right. I was going to ask that too.
I have done candidate trainings in the past, which have been very helpful to help get other people elected. I'm not sure yet.
Well, I can't imagine someone who would be better qualified to be an elected official than you.
I have to second that with Steven, really.
What did you tell us you were doing at your junior prom?
So to start this story from the beginning, because I very passively mentioned to you what I was doing. When I was a junior in high school, actually, there was the principal of our high school was leaving. They were going to another job. It was a better opportunity for them. Awesome. And the administrator, who not only did the faculty of the high school agree was the best for the job, but the students were new and had a relationship. And even though administrators, the relationships are not always positive, you give out detentions, blah, blah, blah. I never got a detention, but some other people did. They were really considered for the position. And this administrator is also who had helped me with GSA, getting it started. So this woman was considered for the position, had been recommended by the faculty, and the school board sought to hire someone else. And I staged a 500 student walkout at our high school in protest and in support of the person who had been pushed over. And so we walked out. It was really fun. It really started my activism in a sense of outside of the LGBTQ plus community, because while I had always held the values of like feminism and being anti-racist and like truly trying to be all-encompassing and intersectional in my views, my activism hadn't gotten there yet. I had been to the Women's March, but to me that almost doesn't count because it's more of like a parade at this point, especially the national ones, which was very cool to go to, but
really cool to go.
Protesting at a major event is very, very different than doing it at home. Both are good and effective, but it is a whole other ballgame at home because then Facebook gets mad at you. So after this walkout, I encouraged everyone and the other students who had organized it with me. We are all like, we are going to the school board meeting tonight. We organized this on a day of a school board meeting, so we were all going. And I had never been to a school board meeting before. And I sat there during this meeting and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. Somebody, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't this meeting or the next one, somebody resigned in the middle of that meeting. There were public comment. It was the first public meeting I had ever been to. And I was like, I love it here. It's like, this is like watching reality TV up close. And then my own confessional. Like I was so into it. And my friend, I didn't even have my license set. And my friend who had driven me, she was like, you know, you have to come to all of these now, right? And I was like, you know, you have to drive me to all of these now, right?
I love it.
But so I kept going to these meetings, and that's how the week after I spent my junior prom at a school board meeting. And I mean, like I had fun. And honestly, like prom was never really my shtick, but I feel like the best way to say, what was your experience like in high school, is I spent my prom at a school board meeting. But so I ended up actually, these meetings were at 7 p.m. On a school night. And for a lot of parents who all these meetings apply to, it's very hard to, it's inaccessible. It's difficult to attend. So I started just live streaming it on my iPhone when I was still in high school. And then I continued it into part of my senior year until I did a petition for the school board to do it themselves, which they finally ended up doing. Because there was
a catalyst behind it being live streamed so that you could accommodate the parents.
Yeah, it got to a point. Thank you. It got to a point where I would put it in like one of like the Vernon Moms groups, because my town has a lot of those Facebook groups where they're like special interests or just like for people who live there. It got to a point where like I would have a technical issue, or I wouldn't be able to attend due to being a student also and having something else to do, where moms would be like, where's the stream? I missed it. I need the stream. Where did the stream go? And I'd be like, I'm in a petition, so I don't have to. But no, and it was just really like how I spent the remainder of my high school career going to school board meetings was a really good crash course in civic engagement, but also how Robert's Rules works.
Yeah.
I would not be able to go through an agenda the way I can now if it wasn't for the fact that I would sit in really long school board meetings because they were also having some issues. And being like, okay, when is public comment? What agenda item are they on? How much longer is this going to be? And I also like was able to like foster really good relationships because of it. Just because like I met members of the community who were also like, why is there a 17-year-old here? Why are you not doing 17-year-old things? And I'd be like, I just think this is fun. Right. So yeah, that's what I was doing at my prom.
I love this. So I'm curious, because we talk about this at TriVersity, how we're going to deal with Pride this year, because we don't know whether it's going to, where we can gather out and how many people we can have. And we always went into the New York Pride every year, which was so incredible. We were at World Pride. That's but awesome. This last year, of course, we know what happened. This year, I don't know, do you guys have something? Oh, by the way, when I use you guys, it's just my term. It's like when Steven says y'all.
That is like a really fun, I'm so sorry to interrupt. That is a really fun a thing that only gays and Southerners do. It is like the middle of a circle, like of a, what is that circle? I forgot. That's a fun thing that we all do.
Well, hey, I accomplished both the gay and the Southern. So yeah.
Well,
Yes,
I can tell Steven, I grew up in the Bronx. We had one general term, use, or use going. And it's great. That can be good for they, that can be good for he, she. It's a good term, use. But if you're not from the Bronx, a lot of people don't know what the heck I'm talking about with that. But
use, y'all, gender neutral. I'm into it.
It is. That's what I've been saying. It's gender neutral. Do you have certain plans for Pride? Are you still bantering about? What are you thinking?
So Sussex County Pride, we started an initiative last year the first year I was really doing organizing for Pride Month specifically, I was able to work with a councilman who was actually the first openly gay councilman in Vernon's history, Patrick Carreri. He was able to work with me and we got Pride Month proclaimed in Vernon. And that was in 2019, excuse me. Which was really, really wonderful and awesome. And we weren't able to do the Pride flag raising just because Pride Month proclamation alone for a municipality in Sussex County was so unprecedented. While I still asked, it would have been a lot to be like, hey, Vernon, can you be the first to do both? This year, I'm determined to make them do both, though. So, so then the following year, in 2020,
last year.
And Sussex County Pride resolved to try to get Pride Month proclaimed in every municipality and in the county. So we drafted a resolution, which I have behind me actually, just a verbiage that you could use, that a town could use, and that somebody who lived in that municipality could submit to their council. And while we didn't get all 24 municipalities like I had envisioned, we still got a record-breaking number of Sussex County municipalities to pass this resolution, and our county government did as well. And while there was some scandal surrounding it on both sides for the county to do it. One, because some of the right in Sussex County were unhappy that they had proclaimed it at all. We were unhappy because they used a quote from President Trump to be like, oh, yay, everyone is welcome. And that same week, Trump had rolled back transgender protections. So we were like, well, no, please don't use our abusers to tell us we're okay to be existing. So we will absolutely be doing that push again. We will be pushing for Pride flag raisings in all of our municipalities and proclamations. And Sussex County has precedent to outdoor gatherings for political reasons and for protest reasons. And so Sussex County Pride has always been outside, as most prides are. I don't know why I specified.
Yeah.
So pending on how much further the vaccine goes, what spread is looking like in Sussex County, I truly would like to do a smaller scale celebration, like we do every year.
Well, last year you did a drive-in theater with drag acts.
That was Morris County Pride. And I am jealous. They have corporate sponsors.
I didn't realize that's what you need to get in order to produce something like that. Wow.
There are a lot of, I'm sure it was a massive undertaking. And I know
great idea.
Organizers there who put in a lot of time, a lot of effort. Like, it takes a lot to do something like that. But Morris County Pride also, who are all wonderful, they also are able, they have bank accounts and tax filings, and they have more people on staff who know how to register as a nonprofit. I don't know what they're registered as. Don't quote me on that. But Sussex County Pride is completely grassroots. It is just myself and a couple volunteers behind a computer. It's our time. It's donations from people who just trust it to just send it to us personally. So it is a lot harder to do big events. Like when we did a drag we did some of the first drag performances in Sussex County, other than at the Stanhope House, in 2019, and that was really, really amazing. But we couldn't. There was no way to rent a stage. Like, the sound system we had, like, somebody let us borrow.
But that's how you do it.
Okay. We get that.
And
Well, we hear you on that.
So my eventual goal, like, is to be able to have like a nonprofit status, to have like a community center, to like be able to do things like what TriVersity does with like the prom for LGBT students. And like we have a lot of very, very high goals, but right now, like a Pride on the Green is enough for a lot of us. So last year we didn't do anything in person. We originally had postponed, and my idea, which I'm so mad I wasn't able to do because around holidays, COVID was going wild in our area. Yeah. I wanted to do Happy Holidays and do a Christmas themed Pride event, but it was cold, so I didn't. But so this year, because we didn't have any in-person celebrations last year, I feel very, very strongly that considering the spread and the vaccinations and all that jazz, I do want to still have a in-person gathering. We do have a date set for the first Saturday in June, just because we've always done it that we always do it in June. It's Pride Month. That makes sense. Right. And like it's really important for just people to be able to like celebrate Pride.
Yes, it is.
As long as
I think what we're going to do on the TriVersity front is we're going to plan, because we've been wanting to do a Tri-State Pride event. I think we are going to wait, not do it in June, so everybody can be vaccinated, the hope is, and then do like a parade in September, because it does seem like September's like Pride Month 2.0 for like a number of places. So.
I know a lot of organizations did something in October. There was actually an inaugural Asbury Park Dyke March down the Jersey Shore, and they did something on National Coming Out Day where they just gathered in a park and were able to just like it wasn't like a parade, it wasn't anything, but it was able to just be unapologetically themselves and queer, and it was led by some very, very wonderful women. But I like the Tri-State Pride idea. But no, so we have tentative plans. Whatever it will be, it's on a smaller scale than the trajectory we've had. Sussex County Pride attendance has, I want to say, doubled almost every year we've put it on.
Great.
Which has been fantastic and really, really very cool for me as an organizer to see that happen. Because, like, I mean, like, when I did GSA meetings, there were times where, like, I sat in room 112 by myself for 45 minutes and I took the bus home. So it was really cathartic to like graduate as a senior and have membership, have kids who came every meeting, have kids who wanted to run for officer positions. So it's also really, really nice to see Sussex County Pride grow from just a bunch of people on a square with pride flags to drag shows with like activist speeches and congressional recognition. So
it's great for us to watch you grow. I mean, and
we can learn from you.
You're brand new. You haven't been around that long. And it's really wonderful and inspiring to see this,
And Zoe, I mean, after the show, I'd love to talk to you about doing what you like, pursuing proclamations. I mean, that would be a great idea for us to do for Pike County and Milford.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Just so you guys know, for those of you at home, we're going to be pairing together a lot now. We're going to do a lot of just a little sneak peek. But yeah, no, I can absolutely get you and anyone else who wants those resources to ask their council or county government to recognize Pride Month.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Do we have any questions for Zoe, Steven?
We don't have many, but I do like one that Simone gave, which is, what advice would you have given your 14-year-old self?
I want to take this seriously and say that it's okay to be gay, but I also really just want to tell myself to stop pursuing theater. I auditioned for a performing arts high school, and thank God I didn't get it. I would be a monster. Like, I cannot tell you. Like, I love the arts. I like truly like creative is like a core of my being. But like, I was an insane theater kid. I was like, what do you mean we're not doing Cats? Like, we have to do a good show. Like, no, I mean, like, I think that a legitimate answer that's not for comedic effect. I mean, it is a real answer, but it truly is just like be a lot less unsure of yourself and understand that you are on the right track. Yeah, probably. What year was that? Oh, fine. No, just like I took a really long time for me to like have confidence in myself, not only like from a visual standpoint, just because like I grew up like a chubby little kid. And so like it took a lot of time to build confidence from that standpoint, but also like confidence in like who I am as a person and like my resolve.
Yeah.
Like I feel like even now, like I still get like shakeable and like my resolve every now and then. But when I was 14, I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. When it wasn't fine. But no, I just wish I started a lot of this stuff sooner as well. Like even further than GSA stuff. Like I wish I was going to. I was going to say I wish I was going to public meetings when I was 14, but no, I don't. No, but I really wish that like I was more educated in what I do now and more sure of myself now. There's that.
But you were 14, so there you go.
Right, I was 14. So I'm going to stick with the theater answer.
I love the theater answer.
And this isn't a question, but I did love it. This is for Mary Krauss. Zoe, you make Vernon proud. Thank you for having a voice for the LGBTQ community. Oh, and there is a question too. Do you feel that people in our community are accepting?
Thank you for saying that, Mary. I guess. I feel like that's a loaded question only because it's not black and white, but at the same time it is, because I spoke to our current mayor, Howard Burrell, when he was getting ready to run for mayor. And he, for those of you who aren't familiar, he's a African-American man. He's the first African-American mayor elected in Sussex County at all, ever.
Wow.
So it's a major milestone. And we've had conversations at length about the LGBTQ plus community, where he has said, like, as somebody who grew up in Mississippi, like during the 60s,
wow.
He has said to me, like, I very firmly believe, like, this is the next big movement. Like, this is the next step within civil rights within the United States. And like, part of me knowing that we had that representation in our government is really, really helpful to me. I've also had conversations with the current council president, Harry Shortway. Like, our county government, our municipal government, our town of Vernon is really, really incredibly wonderful and supportive. And even then they can't always go the extra step because they're worried about repercussions. They do what they can. They don't do nothing. They always do something. So I feel like we're in a very good spot at that point. And there are some people who just like live in Vernon who aren't as accepting, but I truly think it is out of ignorance and a misunderstanding. So as far as our community goes, there's that. But there are also some areas of Sussex County that are not. And like Vernon specifically, I would say is probably one of the best towns in Sussex County, not just because I am from there, but just in terms of like, I moved to Vernon when I was 11. So I went from going to Catholic school. We moved town specifically so I could go to Vernon schools. And like, I truly feel at home. Like, I feel like welcomed in the community. And like, I know now I'm like an adult and I've grown up here for the most part, but it's intimidating to move to an entirely new town. And there was that one moment where I was like, this is not where I wish we had gone somewhere else. So I feel like in that aspect, like Vernon is a really, really wonderful place, and I'm very proud to be from here. And as far as our county goes, LGBTQ plus issues actually like poll pretty well in Sussex County from a political standpoint, as far as like gay rights specifically. And we do have a long way to go in terms of acceptance for our entire community, but we're getting there. So I feel like with a little elbow grease, we can truly become a far more accepting place. So I feel like we're like in the middle.
Hey,
good answer.
That's in the middle with you. So Zoe, so we're getting toward the close of the show, but we always like to open the floor to our guests if they want to say any last plugs or words. So now the floor is yours. Say whatever you like.
Thank you. I feel like I've been talking all night. I just want to say
anything.
I was like really, really excited when Simone reached out for my contact information to give to you guys. I really like attention, so this was wonderful. No, I mean, seriously, like, I'm really, really grateful to be able to use part of your platform to promote Sussex County Pride, because we are new. We have been struggling for a little while. Thank you for plugging my website. I made that website. If there's any problems, it's not my fault.
It's fantastic. It's a fantastic website.
Thank you. But no, we are small. We do want to grow. We do want, I would like to develop an executive board or board of directors, much like TriVersity has. Part of it is just that a lot of the people who want to are, there's either like one, so I feel silly doing a board of 2 people, or they're very, very young and they're living their lives and they're going off to college. And while they want to give the dedication, can't. So it would be really like, come volunteer with us. Come help me figure out how to be a nonprofit so I can make a bank account and fundraise, please. But just thank you guys for giving me your platform, even for a night, which has been really wonderful and entertaining. And just like vote. I don't know. I feel like vote is just always a really good thing.
Yeah. It's always a really good thing to end with, especially when there's been local town drama where.
Oh yeah, right.
Also, before we get into our elected officials, who I have feelings about, get vaccinated if you can. Do everything you can to get vaccinated, get tested. I got my vaccine today, which I am incredibly, incredibly grateful for, because it was very difficult to be able to make an appointment. Stop the spread. COVID is bad. I want to have Pride this year, so like let's get it over with, guys.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll give a quick plug to Dottie Mitchell Schweier, who said, "Hi, I got my shot today." So
yeah, hey, Dottie. I have both my shots.
Yes, well,
we can't all be perfect, Wendy. Okay.
Exactly.
Listen, I suffered to get them. You have no idea.
Oh, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
Hours, absolutely hours on the internet, and hours not getting anywhere. And this has been, we know, but you know what, at the end of the day, we're going to stop the spread, and that's what we want to do.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Zoe, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.